Welcome back to Trek Retrek. This is our second episode. We talk about Star Trek, starting with the original series, going through every episode in the order that they aired. I have seen everything. My name is Johnny. I'm your captain.
And I have seen nothing. I'm Kayla. I'm the ensign. Did I get that right?
You did. You will get promoted.
Yes.
Kayla will be promoted to
Yes.
lieutenant when we finish watching the original series and the
Yes.
movies.
12 years later, we will.
79 episodes, 6 movies. We got a lot of Star Trek to get
We
through.
got this. We
We
got
do.
this.
So this episode is called Charlie X.
hmm
Um, IMDb says that Captain Kirk must learn the limits to the power of a 17-year-old boy with the psionic ability to create anything and destroy anyone.
Honestly, sounds like the worst thing ever. Like, if that happened in our actual world, we'd be screwed.
It'd be pretty
Like,
bad. Moody teenager with psionic powers is probably,
yeah.
I mean, that's what Professor X has a whole school to deal with those kind of people.
Yeah. And is that I feel like we never, got a concrete um like explanation or just like knowledge of all of his powers. I feel like, they just kept expanding.
Yeah.
um I don't know, like obviously he was using his brain, his eyes would roll back every time. And
Yeah.
yeah, he would either like control people's thoughts, make them disappear, make things appear, turn water into wine by making the turkeys. Like, yeah, just all sorts of things. Obviously, all with the brain, so I get that, but still, I felt like there wasn't really a limit on it at all.
Mm-mm. No, because like, so he made Spock do the poetry. Um, he made the wall.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, they didn't really give a limit to everything that he could do, but it seemed like he could do
Mhm.
almost everything. Although I guess not necessarily. He did have a limit because when he was trying to, there was
Yes.
a part near the end where he was trying to control the whole ship, and Kirk figured out that nobody had disappeared and that he was probably taxing himself.
Yeah, a limit in that sense where, literal energy limit, but in terms of abilities though,
Yeah, that I
wasn't.
don't.
Yeah, not sure.
Um, so the star date for this episode is 1533.6, which is after the man trap was 1513. So this is definitely
Mhm.
chronological. So this is so far after that. Um,
Nice. Nice.
this is the I'm going to go through my episode notes that I wrote down.
Okay, go for
This
it.
is I think the debut of the green wraparound shirt for Kirk. Uh,
I was gonna say that shirt was interesting.
it's very casual for the captain of the starship.
Yeah, I think it was in this episode as well, the, like, sweaters, the, like, velour, or was I thinking of the next one?
The two people who beamed from the Antares that brought Charlie aboard had those.
But the rest of them wear these, like, velour sweaters at some point. Maybe I'm thinking of the
Yeah,
next episode.
maybe we'll
But I
talk.
was just like, "Wow, that was interesting." Interesting
Uh,
fashion choices
yeah,
in the
there
future.
there was someone. I believe it was in the background of the scene in the recreation room where it looked like she was just wearing like a neon pink tube top
Oh, I
and
missed
skirt.
that. Dang it, you keep finding all these things, and I watched these episodes literally 4 times.
I only got around to watching these like maybe 1.5 times each. Uh,
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time to do it. I should have started early. I was gonna watch it
Yeah.
earlier, and then I was like, no, I'll wait till we get closer to record about it so things are fresher in my brain. And then I'm like, oh crap, I got to watch the episodes. Um,
Yeah.
But wait, we are getting ahead of. What did you think of the episode itself? How did you feel about this one?
It was okay. Dude, was it Charlie Evans,
Yeah,
the 17 year
Charlie
old
Evans.
kid? He like creeped me out right away. And like I mean, that's what they were supposed to do. Like, it was obvious that something was up with him right away, but still I was just like, eh. Also, the actor was way older than 17. Like I get actors play a range of ages, but like he just looked way older. I was like, you couldn't even get someone like a little bit younger to make it look more accurate? Because especially with the whole flirting with Janice and stuff, I was like, visually this looks okay, but like I know you're 17, so not okay.
Yeah, and I think Janice had the same reaction as you. She first walked into the transporter room and she looked at him and she looked at Kirk, and I could just felt like she was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was intrigued by it. Um, I don't think I liked it as much as the first episode. Um, Especially because it all took place on the ship, which I'm sure there'll be a lot of episodes like that, but I don't know, like plot-wise, I was just kinda like, "Meh." It was
Yeah, they
okay.
call they refer to this as a bottle episode. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard that term for
I've
other
heard
things.
that from, the Office Ladies podcast.
Yeah. Um, I've only heard it in regards to Star Trek, so I didn't know if it was
Mm.
as big in other uh, fandoms or shows as it has been in Star Trek. But yeah, everything takes place on the Enterprise. Um, yeah, I wasn't as I wouldn't say the thought of rewatching them was a chore, but it was
A little bit. Just a
it
little
was
bit.
more like I didn't feel like I was gonna get more out of
Yeah.
repeat viewings as I did with The
Mm.
Man Trap. I don't know why that
Same.
is. Um,
Yeah, I don't know why it was either. Um, I don't know, I feel like kind of just dragged on. Like there was stuff happening, but like it wasn't really adding to the plot or anything like that, I guess is the best way of
mhm.
putting it. Like he would go and do this and go and do that and like honestly kind of made me anxious at one point cuz I'm like dude's just like digging his own grave with this and he just keeps going. And then he's like, "Do you like me?" I'm like, "Bro, why do you keep asking these
Yeah.
questions?" Like you keep messing up and then you go and say like everything I do I mess up. I'm like, I don't know, maybe self-reflect and change things. Like crazy idea. I don't know.
Well, he is a 17-year-old human boy who was raised by these psionic aliens, I guess. Um, and I remember, so I was thinking about this when I was watching this episode. I was reading something, I believe it was on Reddit, and it was about this episode. It was a while
Mhm.
back, and I feel like somebody said they were talking about Kirk and Janice and the talks with Charlie about consent and being really
Mhm.
progressive for the 60s. And watching it, I'm like, Kirk had the most awkward hallway talk with him about
Yes.
consent. That,
Yes.
like,
I literally put in my notes "awkward consent talk." Cause he was just like, and then this, like stalling, like trying to find the right words. Like even Charlie asking, like, or him explaining what he did, he was like, "Oh, I did this," and he literally slaps him. I'm like, well, that just takes away that consent
yeah,
too, right off the bat. But yeah, him answering, he's like, "Well, just like you, men don't hit women. You see, like men to men, it's different." And
yeah.
then yeah, I was just
How
like,
about
"What?"
just don't hit anybody?
Yeah, let's not hit anyone, let's not sexually harass anyone, like, consent, like, I don't know. I get in a way, it's maybe a little bit ahead of its time, the fact that they're even, like, bringing that up or addressing it,
Yeah,
like, I in a way, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, and not cool, but kind of good that, it's a guy saying that to him instead of like women always having to be the ones to take the burden of being like, no, that's what's wrong and explaining why it's wrong. So I was like, oh, that's cool that like Kirk's doing it. Um, but at the same time, I was just like, girl, you should have said something too, because clearly Captain Kirk could not figure out how to say that
Yeah.
properly.
Kirk is really not at all interested in being a father figure. Like
No.
Bones
And
is trying
everyone
to push him towards it, and he's
yeah.
like, he's not
No.
having it.
Nah. Not today, Satan. Not today.
Um,
Um,
so yeah, I don't know either the perspective of the time because it was 20
mhm.
years before my time, but
Mm.
so I'm not sure how progressive that would have been for the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, I would say probably a bit. Also, especially it being the second episode. I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of TV shows nowadays, they need to have, like, maybe not so much now, but, for the most part, need to have this, what's the word? Like, they already have establishment of a show to then later on, like, tackle bigger issues. Like, they have to have already been well established to then be able to do that because they have an audience. Whereas this is like second episode. Let's get into it.
it's like all the 80s sitcoms with the tonight on a very special episode of Star Trek.
mm,
Nope, they're
don't
just
know
throwing
that
you
one.
right into it. Um,
I guess. Yeah, no, don't know that one. Yeah, they really are. There was. I feel like just so much cringe in this episode. So much cringe. Um, the weird workout machine.
the one that he was on in the
Yeah.
dispensary sick bay, where he's on his back and pushing the
Yeah.
boxes into the wall.
It's almost like the leg press, but like individually.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Um, we saw I think this was the debut of 3D chess. I don't think the 3D chessboard was in the previous episode.
And those chess pieces sure looked interesting.
And we'll cover that more later.
Yes.
Um, 3D chess has been a long-standing Star Trek staple. I think there's even rules for it.
Oh.
Like people have come up with rules for 3D chess.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool. That reminds me of Wizard's chess in Harry Potter and how, people could play that in real life.
yeah.
Even though it's pretty much like, from what I've heard, it's pretty much like real chess,
So
essentially. But like in the movies, the chess pieces actually move.
so Wizard's chess always reminded me in the 90s there was a computer game called Battle Chess. And
Mm.
you moved the pieces, and when a piece would take another piece, like they turned from the chess piece into like a person, and they had a little animated battle, and then you took the
Oh,
piece. It was a really cool
huh.
game, but it's
I
it's an
wonder if
older.
she stole it from that.
She
Wouldn't
pulled a lot of
surprise
stuff
me.
from places that she says she didn't pull anything from, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of coincidences. Um,
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much like original stuff you can come up with nowadays, anyways.
yeah, uh, we
Everything's
got
been done.
our we got our first shirtless Kirk.
Yes. Um,
He
apparently having my phone on Do Not Disturb does not work. Um, I literally put in my notes Kylo Ren Kirk because like it was so high waisted.
Yeah, Kirk decided
uh,
he needed to take Charlie to fight, and I think Charlie had a different F word in mind. Um,
I did not get that impression.
I
I
mean,
thought he was just all for Janice, but
that's what I'm thinking. That like he would rather do a different kind of F word with Janice than go fight.
yes. Oh, I see. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was like the weirdest. He was like, "You gotta," oh, I forgot what he said, but like, "You gotta learn how to something first, but like not actually fight, but like
Do the roll and break the
def-
impact of the
y-
fall, like lessen the
yeah,"
damage from the fall.
which is interesting. But I was just like, it just reminded me of, there's always those training sequences in movies, like the montage that they do, and I was just like, this is the stupidest montage of that,
Like I'm thinking like
which
he's
made it just that much more entertaining.
he's like doing back bumps like a professional wrestler, just like throwing himself down and laying his arms out like he's
Mm,
teaching Charlie how to wrestle. Um,
that stuff means nothing to me, so I'll take your word for it.
okay. The paper cups are back. I think they're paper. I'm obsessed with these cups, the gray cups,
You
because
clearly are.
um, and I'm going to talk about them again when we cover Where No Man Has Gone Before. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
My
Okay.
deconstruction of the paper cups on the Enterprise. Because the
Still,
first
I
time I saw
wow.
them, I thought they were styrofoam, but I think they're paper, but I don't know. But they're those gray
As
cups with the
someone
black line.
Yeah, as someone who prides themselves in being observant, I am really slacking. And once again, I watched these 4 times. Granted, every time I did, I was kind of doing something else. So maybe that's why.
Might be.
Well, also I had like a different thing in mind. Like I was like, okay, just like I'm just gonna watch it. I was only planning on watching it 3 times, but then I needed ideas for memes, so then I watched it again while I was getting ready. But I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna watch it," and the second time I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna watch it and take notes, do, like, a summary," and the third time, I'm trying to find "That's What They Said," and failed miserably, not on this episode, but then on the next one. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Um, and then Charlie had a gold colored wraparound that he was wearing, similar to Kirk's green one. Um, which I was reading
Mhm.
a little bit about the colors of the uniforms. So apparently, the uniforms that we see as gold are actually like a green, but once they
Hmm,
go through like the studio lighting and then the transfer to film and then everything else involved, they end up looking like a yellow gold color. But apparently on set
interesting.
they were green. And reading about that, one of the things that they were talking about was they wanted to use Star Trek to sell color televisions. They also were looking for three colors that would be distinct to tell the difference on black and white TVs. Uh,
Mhm.
Apparently, at this time, NBC was owned by RCA, and RCA was making color televisions and trying to sell them. So they wanted
Interesting.
colors that you could tell the difference on black and white TV, but that would show off the capabilities of color TV. So they went with a green, like I think I read like a lime green for command,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and after the studio lighting and the transfer to film, it ended up looking gold.
That's very interesting. Also, the fact that they were trying to sell TVs.
Yeah. Yep.
It's such a different time.
Um,
That's so funny.
Tina gets turned into a lizard.
Tina Lizard, yeah. Poor Tina. She was like, also the fact that, he immediately wanted to talk to Janice, and then they were like, oh, that's so rude that, like, you ignored her. And it's just like, well, you can still talk with her. You can just ask Janice something first. Like, it was just so weird. Like, whoever wrote that, I just was like, this makes zero sense right now. And then she's like, I'm gonna go where I'm wanted,
Yeah.
or something like that. And I was just like, okay, girl. Like, you're not even getting rejected. You're like just impatient, and I don't know, like like that would not happen in real life.
Yeah, I think that was a like a product of shorthand for television, like because you're right, like just being like I talk to you alone is not, I don't think, like an extremely rude thing. um
No. No.
but they kind of used it as shorthand to be like to show that Charlie didn't
Yeah,
have interest in anybody but Janice.
yeah, I feel like that was kind of their way of, like, shortening all of that, like, development. I think you're
Mm.
right in that regard, but still, it was just so awkward. Oh my gosh, and then when he was saying to Janice, like, "You smell like a girl, like other girls don't smell like you," I'm like, "What are you saying with this? Because if you're saying what I think you're saying, that's really freaking weird." I don't know. I don't know if you've caught that too.
I caught that line. I have it written down in my notes. You smell like a girl. Like,
Uh-huh.
um, I I think the like were there no women on the Antares at all? Like, I feel like
I
Janice. They're
guess
putting it as
not.
like Janice is the first woman that Charlie has ever seen because he's like, "Is that a girl? Are you a girl? Is that a girl?"
Yeah.
Kirk's like,
And same with,
"Yeah, dude, that's a girl."
what's the name of his people?
Asians.
The Asians. Must not have them there either.
I
But
guess not.
also they're not humans.
They're incorporeal, so like he was saying at the
Yeah.
end, like you can't even touch them, so they're not
Yeah.
solid beings. They're
Yeah.
ethereal,
So I'm
non
wondering if you
corporeal
can
beings.
fully compare them anyways.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um, when red flag, don't ever lock the door on me again, Janice. Like, dude,
Oh my god. I
bag
was
up.
just like, absolutely not. Nope. Yeah, that's a huge red flag there. So manipulative, so controlling. And then but then she hits him right back with like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Like you can't just walk in here. So
Yeah,
love her for that.
Janice was fed up.
Yeah, she was so over it. I did really like that like pink like satiny whatever, not
The
satiny,
nightgown
like
she had on.
flowy. Yeah, nightgown. That was cute. I was a fan of that.
When they're when they're fighting in so Kirk and she turns on like her intercom so Kirk on the bridge can hear what was going on,
Yeah.
which is like super
Smart.
smart. So Kirk and Spock rush down, and when they're
Mhm.
Charlie does his little head bob and they fly into the wall. There's one shot where like the drywall is broken because, and I was reading about it. Apparently, Nimoy threw
Huh.
himself into the wall too hard on a
Oh
rehearsal
no.
and broke it. So there's one shot where you see that the wall is like cracked. Um,
Oh
but
my
then in like the
gosh.
next shot, it's fixed, so it's not there the whole time.
Missed that too. So unobservant.
Then they try to trap him in the room with the force field, and he just makes the entire wall disappear. And I wrote down
Yeah.
great plan, guys.
Yeah.
And there
Oh my
was
god.
when you're watching it, it looks like there's no urgency, like when he's in the room to activate the force field. But then
No.
it's activated. They must not have shown like Spock off camera must be pressing the button as soon as he's through the threshold, but they don't give any
Mm.
indication of that.
Yeah, they didn't. I feel like there's a lot of things though like that in this show that I'm realizing it's just like you just gotta take it for what it is. If it happens, it happens. Oh, and I think somewhere around shirtless Kirk I have in my notes looks like Avengers symbol, and I think I'm talking about the symbol on the shirt. For some reason, I think what they were wearing, um, I'm guessing when they were fighting, looked more Avengers-y than that one does.
So
Yes.
I actually have the other one right here. Now this is from
The Starfleet.
the movie, the Pine movies.
Mm.
I think these came out because they're copyright 2009. But yeah, so
Oh yeah.
and so we'll talk about that a little bit because I wrote that down, but I wasn't going to mention it because we were past talking about the uniforms. So if
Mm.
you noticed, the Antares crew had a different patch on their shirt. Originally, every ship
Oh.
was going to have its own logo, and this was the Enterprise, was the Delta
Uh-huh.
with the different. So the star in it is for command, and then
Uh-huh.
sciences has like two circles that are intertwined, and
Uh-huh.
operations has like a swoosh. um, and medical has a cross. And
Okay.
every ship had different patches on their shirt. Eventually, they just adopted the Delta as the main symbol for Starfleet, and
Oh,
every ship uses that now. Um,
interesting.
and obviously, the Delta shield is also synonymous with the Star Trek franchise as a whole at this part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, every
Yeah.
ship was going to have its own, and did. I know I play Star Trek Online, and they did all the different ship logos as options for your uniform for your character in Star Trek Online, and
Hmm.
there is a massive list of them.
Oh
Um,
my god.
I'm sure if you want to go look them up, they're on Memory Alpha, and you can see all the different ship logos from the original series. Um, but yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Um, so my general thoughts on the episode, like, it was fine. I
Mhm.
don't think it's as rewatchable for whatever reason as the
Yeah.
first half was. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have
It's
anything?
interesting how it's interesting how quickly downhill it went. Um, uh, let's see, Ahura's pointy nails, I thought that was interesting considering I get that they're supposed to be, it's supposed to be in the future and whatnot, but, like, I feel like pointy nails have only become a thing recently. Um, I just noticed that. Spock's smoky eye. The makeup is so different for Spock every time. And there's been a couple times where, like, it really is like smoky eye look, and I'm like, and then there's also ones where his eyebrows are super laminated, which means they're just like all pointed the same way, which is a new trend now. So I thought that was
Mhm.
funny. Um oh, and how he made them faceless when he was like, "Stop laughing," because I thought they were, like, literally just gonna stop laughing, but I was like, "Oh my god, it's like Wanda and Doctor Strange
Yeah,
with, Black Bolt." Black Bolt?
yeah.
That's him, right?
Well, she just took
Um,
away his mouth. The
yeah,
whole phase is
complete
gone.
face, which that, prosthetic was real bad, and literally you could, like, see the edge on it, but I was like, "Eh, whatever." Um, I think that's about it for the episode. Yeah, I probably wouldn't suggest it. Do we want to do, let's see. Oh, the
Favorite.
ranking. Do we want to do the ranking now or after memes?
Let's do it after. We'll follow the.
Okay.
So, what was your favorite moments or lines or things from this episode?
Um oh gosh. Eh, I mean, it's funny cuz it's not my actual favorite, but I just cringed so hard with the whole consent talk. And the whole rec room scene with Spock playing was really interesting, and Ahura singing. Because she was singing about him, the
Yeah,
first song. Okay. Which was interesting because I was like, is Spock really, that alluring to everyone, or is it just you?
he must be. I mean, like she says in the song, female astronauts apparently are
Yeah.
bewitched by Spock, who wears Satan's guise.
Yeah.
It was
I
a
thought
weird
that was
song.
so funny.
I thought about
Very.
that. Um,
And then with the second song for Charlie, like, she was like hyping him up, and then of course he just like kind of took it the wrong way and then shut her up, and then no one like noticed this, like, or
mhm.
was like, why can't you sing anymore? It was just kind of like brushed over. And like, here, let me show you some card tricks where I'm showing you creepy pictures of yourself. Like, that
Yeah.
whole scene was just like a fever dream essentially. So I would say that I can't think of specific lines, but yeah, that scene for sure stood out. What about you?
Um, I liked one that stuck out to me was Spock and Bones debating about the Thasians on the bridge. Like I thought that was a really interesting conversation between the two of
Mhm.
them, and then Kirk, just kind of giving his input here and there. I did
Mhm.
write down when Kirk was talking to Charlie. I think it was Kirk's quarters when he showed him the chess pieces and was like, "Do you know anything about this?" And
Mhm.
Charlie's like, "No, I don't." A teenager who doesn't
Yeah.
want to get in trouble. No, I don't. I
Yep.
don't know what. I don't know who burned the chess pieces with their mind. Um, Kirk says,
Melted.
hang on tight and survive. Everybody does. And I thought that really stuck out as a good line about
Mm.
like Charlie was
Mhm.
talking about how he doesn't know how to essentially deal with rejection by Janet.
Yeah.
Kirk was like, she's not the girl, Charlie. First, there's the age difference. Second, she's
Yeah.
not interested. Get it through your
Yeah.
head.
No
He's like,
means
I don't know
no.
what to do. And Kirk's like, hang on tight and survive. Everybody does. And Charlie's like, not you. And Kirk's like, everybody, Charlie, even me. Yeah, something
Mhm.
along those lines. But the
Wow,
hang on
you
tight and
got
survive,
it.
everybody does stuck out to me. But yeah, those
I
were the
like
two.
I like that, except for in context, it's like, "Hang on tight, buddy, just gotta survive." Like, these women are just gonna reject ya. Like, that's kinda how it comes across, but if kinda broaden it out of context, I think it is a good line as well.
Well, I think he did because he said there's a and the way he framed it is still kind of problematic. But I get the
Yeah,
message they were trying to send, like
totally.
because he says there's a million things you can have and a million things you can't. Uh,
Mhm.
so, but yeah, I like
Yeah.
that line and the
Yeah.
conversations between the three stars, the three main characters of the show, Kirk, Spock, and
Yeah.
McCoy. The other thing I have written down in my notes is they really love the shots, the close-ups where the only lighting is
The
like
eyes.
across the eyes. It was real
Yes.
dramatic.
Yes. I think I wrote that down for next episode. I more so noticed it, but it was in this episode too. It was a lot of that. I was like, wow, that was such a thing back in the day.
Is it? I don't know
Just
if
so
it was kind of
dramatic.
a Star Trek thing or if it was just for Star
I've
Trek.
seen it in other stuff. I think it
Okay.
was definitely a thing. Um, do we want to do episode trivia?
Yes, so I have a couple of things, three things from Memory Alpha, the main
Cool.
Star Trek wiki. Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Rand, lists this as one of her three favorite episodes. She said this is from
Really?
Starlog number 105, April 1986. She says, Charlie X brought out another side of me, the woman looking at a younger man. That was also wonderful because I felt an allegiance to Captain Kirk.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
I maybe to that she got to put him in his place.
She was really like, she had a lot of
But that
she had a lot of
I don't know.
starring moments and a lot of focus in this episode,
She
and
did.
there were a lot of things that she did that was like, yeah, go Janice, like
Mhm.
don't take no shit.
And then there was moments where when they're in the hall and he was like, "Oh," talking about her smell and whatnot. It's like and then saying how you feel it too. What was it? Like the urge to something. I can't remember exactly what it was,
He was
but
talking about his whole body feeling hungry.
yes, hungry. There we go. He's like, "Oh, you feel that way too." And for a second, I don't know if this was just her bad acting or they told her to play it off, but she looked into it too. I
Yeah,
thought she was licking her lips and I was like, "Wait, what's happening?"
I think that was before where it would have been a cut to commercial, so they kind of like are leaving it in like trying to leave the viewer in suspense.
Ambiguous.
Um, but
Maybe.
after that, that's the conversation that leads us her to go to the bridge and tell Kirk about him, and she says
Yes.
something to the effect of, like she's seen that kind of look before, and she's like, if it goes any further,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to hurt him. Like
Yep.
she was
She's
she was
like,
more
I'm literally
concerned
gonna have to physically hurt.
she was more concerned that she didn't want to have to hurt him than anything else. Like she knew that she was going to have to defend herself and wasn't going to hesitate to do so if it came to like physically putting him on the floor.
Which, like, I 100% get that. There have been many situations that I've been in where, I mean, I also just have always been able to read people well, read situations well, and I can get those vibes from people. But there's been many times where I'm like, nah, this is not good. I'm staying away from you. You are no good. You are all trouble. I can just tell. So like I get that. Like, and you can tell it's gonna get to that point too. Like you just have this feeling, women's intuition.
The other thing I have is this episode was originally originally scheduled to air further into the season, as all action took place aboard the Enterprise, and it was basically a teenage melodrama set in the space age, both of which were elements NBC disliked. However, as it required no new outer space visual effects shots, its post production took less time than other episodes. It was chosen to be the second episode to air out of necessity, as no other episodes were ready for the deadline. It also says the Antares was originally to be shown on screen, but when the early air date was commissioned, this was eliminated. However, we see the Antares because they put it in for the remastered visual effects shots. But apparently, in the original airing, there was no shot of the Antares beside the Enterprise. So yeah, this ended up being the second episode just because it was the easiest one to get ready to air for the air date.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Honestly. Uh that kind of sucks. Like, yeah, this I feel like this would have fit a lot better further in
Yeah.
the season. Like it's just like
Um,
a filler episode.
there was a part too about that's why they mentioned Thanksgiving, because this was supposed to air like in November around
Oh.
Thanksgiving. But then they pushed
Yeah.
it up because it didn't need as much work. And we'll talk a little bit more
Mm.
about that when we cover Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Okay.
The last thing I have is the galley chef was voiced by Gene Roddenberry in his first and only acting role in Star Trek. Despite having dialogue, he was uncredited. So he was the guy who called and said,
Oh.
"Hey, all the meatloaf is actual turkey now, dude." Like that was
Yeah.
Roddenberry. Apparently, that is the
Huh.
only time he ever did anything in an episode of Star Trek.
Amazing. Love those little tidbits.
Um,
Sad that he's not credited though.
I mean, he's got another credit in the show as being like the creator. He's just not credited as the
Oh.
host. So I
Yeah.
think he
Well,
was okay.
true.
He probably he probably decided not to. Like he didn't want his name credited because there's a lot of times where
Yeah.
actors will do that. They'll go uncredited for whatever reason. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
those are our
the sleuths
what's
will figure it out.
yeah. Those are our episode trivia tidbits from Memory Alpha. So that will bring us to our memes, our spoilers without context.
Memes.
Do you want to do yours first?
Sure. Let me pull it up so I remember what I did. Oh, yeah. So it was honestly kind of hard to pick the eye rolling because also with the meme that I did for next episode, I was like, oh, I could have the Tina Fey Mean Girls or like Tina Fey kind of crossover. Um, but I was like, I gotta do Iron Man rolling his eyes.
Did you say you
And yeah,
found this one harder to do for, or was it the next episode?
the next
Okay.
episode was a little bit harder to do. Um, yeah, and then the leg press machine, the card tricks, and the infamous awards from Everything Everywhere All at Once that's on Jamie Lee Curtis's desk because that is what the chess pieces looked like, and I could not get the image out of my head, so y'all are welcome.
Very good. Um, and then this is the one that I did. I mean, I have to wonder because Charlie X and Professor Charles Xavier, I wonder, I didn't look into it, but I wonder if there's any kind of, that's probably just a coincidence. But
Oh, when did I mean X-Men must have come out before this, right? In
I've
comics?
I would think so. I thought about looking it up, but I did not. I should have. I should have looked
Shoot.
at the information. Someone in the comments will
Whoa.
mention
Yes.
if X Men was already
Tell
around and if
us.
it somehow inspired this or vice versa. And
Yes.
then of course the SWAT,
The SWAT. That's funny.
um, Tina. Never forget Tina the iguana. Although I
Go
assume she was
Tina.
turned back to normal because at the end of the episode
Yeah.
they said they put everything as it was aside from the
Mhm.
Antares. And then, of
Mhm.
course, the Thasian at the end of the episode, you
Yes.
know, the Wizard of Oz, seemed
Which is
pretty
funny
obvious
because
to
I
me.
found that as well, and then I realized I needed to swap something out on one of mine, so I was like, "Keep that one,
Yeah,
I'll swap mine out." But yes, very much Wizard of Oz.
yeah. So that will bring us to ranking the episode. Um,
Yes.
what would your rank be?
Remind me of the levels again.
Ensign is skippable. Lieutenant is watch
Yes.
it if you have time. Commander is a definite watchable episode. You should if you can. And Captain is going to be essential. It's an essential episode of Star Trek.
I would say Ensign.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on here. This
Yeah.
is not. This is. I'm tempted to say Lieutenant because I think there is some really good interaction and some character development
Mhm.
with Kirk showing that he is like not at all interested in being a father figure to anybody. And there's
Yeah,
some
true.
interesting back and forth between uh, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in certain parts. But
Mhm.
for the little bit of that we get, I don't think it's. I think it stays at
Yeah.
Ensign. I don't think it's a lieutenant worthy
Yeah.
episode.
It's funny because I enjoyed the ride and, it's funny because it just feels like a little, like, time capsule, essentially, but, yeah, if we're actually gonna be recommending episodes, we have plenty of more content to choose
Yeah,
from, and this one, you can just skip on.
maybe that would take forever. Maybe tier lists are real hot, so maybe once we've seen the whole series, we can do a tier list for
Oh,
Star Trek
boy.
episodes.
Okay.
That'd be a big tier list. That's 79 episodes to rank. I don't know if we want to do that. It's a thought.
I know,
Let us.
yeah, I know some people that do that stuff, and I've watched, videos and people like rank long things, but it's just, yeah, it's hard to get through.
So I think that's going to do it for Charlie X.
Yep.
Unanimous rank of ensign. So you don't have to go out of your way to watch this one. It is
No.
definitely skippable.
Yep.
Next time you join us on Trek Retrek, we're going to be talking about Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yep.
IMDb says the flight recorder of the 200-year-old USS Valiant relays a tale of terror and magnetic storm at the edge of the galaxy. This was
Mhm.
an interesting episode because this was the second pilot for Star Trek, and we'll talk more about that when we
Ooh,
cover Where No Man Has Gone Before. So,
interesting.
for your ensign Kayla, I'm your captain Johnny,
Yep. And I already forgot what I need to say. Peace and
and long
long
peace and long life is
peace
your
and
line.
long life. I'll get this, y'all.
Live
Peace and
long
long
and
life.
prosper. We're learning. We're going to see Kayla's transformation into a Trekkie or Trekker.
Yes.
That's a big debate in the fandom if it's Trekkie or
Ooh.
Trekker. I
I've
go
only ever
Trekkie.
heard I've only ever heard Trekkie.
Yeah. Some people prefer Trekker. I use Trekkie
Interesting.
as my Star Trek pronoun is Trekkie.
Good to know. We need to know those things.
So
Awesome.
Let's try this again. Until next time,
Peace and long life.
live long and prosper.
Bye.